Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Only Stupid Answers. This is the show where we answer your questions about movies, TV shows, comic books, houses of dragons, and so much more. I'm your host, DJ Wooldridge. With me, as always, is Roxy Stryer. Hey, Roxy.
Hey, DJ.
Good morning. Good morning. No, I was a little sorry. I was a little burp. I
thought you were really thinking that. I was like, hey, DJ.
That's the secret. That's the secret. When you do a little burp, you just do a little like hand to your mouth, like,
Can I tell you? I don't get. I'm not a burper.
You don't burp? Are you really?
I have to tell you even further. Not that you asked, but I'm not a farter either.
Humble brag. Humble brag.
No, it's not a humble brag. I might die. Like, is it all just stuck in me? Because everybody always, all the time, like, I'm around elderly people. I know what it's like when you decide, actually, I'm just going to let it all hang out.
Yeah.
Like, I have a big brother, so I know all the things.
Yeah.
I don't get where all of mine is going.
That's one of my favorite little things that I think people should like do more when they look at like celebrities and shit like that. Like when you're, Taylor Swift, the biggest fucking celebrity in the world, doing the Eras tour, world renowned. She shits. Isn't that funny to think about? Taylor Swift shits. That's funny.
It is funny to think about.
She probably farts. I don't. She might be like Roxy. Maybe they don't happen for her. But I like to think Taylor Swift just crop dusts the entire audience when she's on stage.
Yeah, I would hope so, because that's a healthy gut system.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on with me. It's stuck.
Yeah, maybe you should talk. Does it feel stuck? Because
if you hurt so bad.
Oh, then that's a problem. Yeah. Then you should talk to somebody about that. If it's like, I don't really fart.
I have.
Okay.
I have to go into the hospital all the time for it. But I have no ability to burp or fart. It's so weird.
Yeah, so that is a problem. I thought you were trying to relate to us as like, I don't burp and fart and I feel fine. And it's like, well, then good for you. That's a good thing.
No. I'm saying I might die of lack of burping.
Okay. Yeah. Well, yeah. Okay. That's a bummer. You're
supposed to. Your body's supposed to release out gas.
Yeah.
And my body's just like, stay in here, bitch. Don't leave me.
Don't you abandon me. Don't you leave me. Oh my goodness. Well, listen, let us know in the chat whether you burp or fart. Okay, so that derailed me a little bit, but we're getting right back on track. Little business up top before we get going. Couple things. One, if you like this show and you want more of it, shows like What We're Into, shows like Spider-Versity, you can do that over at patreon.com/onlystupidanswers. If you watch on YouTube, trying something a little bit new, Sal and I were doing a show called Mutant Academy. We were going through the X-Men movies. We successfully went through the X-Men movies, but it's a popular show. And the X-Men brand is on the rise with X-Men 97. So I figured this is the perfect time for us to go back and start checking out the X-Men the Animated Series, but covering.
You liked or no?
I do like. Well, it's funny watching. We just covered the first couple episodes. I loved it as a kid, but rewatching it, it was like, yeah, man, like, yeah, I like. If you're talking about the original X-Men the Animated Series, it was really cool to go back and visit and be transported. That is more meaningful to me, to go back and watch it and go and remember what it was like as a kid watching, as opposed to something like X-Men 97, where like, hey, we're trying to artificially recapture that feeling, or at least it feels artificial to me. But yeah, so we are, format's a little different. We're covering an animated show. So what we're going to be doing is every episode, we're going to be covering 2 episodes of X-Men the Animated Series. If you watch Spider-Versity, you'll be familiar with the format. Also, I need to like backlog some stuff because I got a baby coming in September, and I'm not going to be doing this show the month baby comes here. So I'm trying to get some stuff to put out while I'm out of commission. So if you want to keep watching Mutant Academy live, get early access to it, and you're on YouTube, you can do that. We have a membership tier now, 99 cents a month. You'll be able to get early access to Mutant Academy, and you'll also be getting the video episodes of Spider-Versity that we have not previously posted on the YouTube. Now, if you're watching this live, you're a patron. Thank you to our patrons. I could see you going like, oh my God, is this something else I need to sign up for? Not at all. Everything that will be going to the membership tier on YouTube will be going to Patreon as well. So if you're a patron, thank you. You don't need to do anything. Also,
that makes sense, DJ.
Yeah. Trying some stuff out, playing around with it. Also, please, if you get a second, I've been posting some videos on my personal channel. DJ Talks Trash. Go check those videos out. I'm talking about The Phantom Menace. I'm talking about the Game of Thrones finale. Trying to switch things up. People on the internet like to yell at me like, oh, DJ, you're always so negative. You hate everything. So I'm trying to be more like, hey, I don't like The Phantom Menace, but here's what I think works about it. And
because you know what you really are? You're not really DJ Talks Trash. You're really DJ Contradicts.
Well, apparently, because then I went on, and then the most recent video I did was on how I actually like the Game of Thrones finale. I think the Game of Thrones finale works.
DJ Contradicts.
Yeah, and it's the comments on that video are good. There's some good conversation on there. On the TikTok clip I posted, the comments are not as chill. They're not as chill. So it's one of those like
I want to go look.
People are big mad that I like something that they don't. So cool. Maybe it's
TikTok used to be the nice people.
Maybe it's not a me problem. Maybe it's a you all problem is what I'm getting at. maybe I just
never once did this guy bring up why the finale was good.
That's the tricky
problem.
It's the tricky thing with TikTok is I'm clearly YouTube shorts are 1 minute, and what I do for the YouTube short, I do for TikTok and everything. And it's like, yeah, you guys get this is a clip of a longer. This isn't my whole argument, right? Like this is just a clip of what I'm saying of the larger point, and people on TikTok don't seem to understand that.
I think this is so funny. I get comments like this all the time. Years have been spent explaining all the reasons it was an authentically terrible finale. Like people will say to me all the time, like objectively speaking, it's horrible, and it's like. That is not what art or opinions are, my dude.
Yep.
Like, never has anybody ever loved something and me being like, that can't be possible because it's not good, and that's fact.
Listen, we ran the numbers, we did the math, and the math says this bad. So
the math says art no good. What?
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's not what art is, you fucking weirdos. Like, I didn't prefer the finale. I think there are good parts and there are bad parts to it. But I know that you liked it good enough, and I'm like, oh, interesting.
Yeah,
curious about that. Like,
yeah. Yep.
Weird.
Anyway, so yeah, DJ Talks Trash. Check out those personal videos there. Trying some stuff there, and on iTunes, 5 stars, please and thank you. And on Spotify every week we ask a question. Last week's question was, who do you think will die in The Boys season 4? Yashu Wazalewski said, as far as OG characters, I think probably Frenchie and MM, possibly Kimiko, but I don't know if she can actually die. So like basically everyone. Yashu Wazalewski is like whole main crew of The Boys done for.
Why couldn't Kimiko die?
It's a good question. I think because we don't know the limits of her healing factor. This episode, she gets hurt in a way that I'm like, wow, surprised that she bounced back as quickly as she did from that. But it's like the question, like, at this point in the comics, they've established that if there's like one atom of Wolverine left, he'll regenerate, which is silly, but that's like where we're at. So it's like, I guess if Kimiko's healing factor is that robust, maybe she can't die.
No, they can all die.
Yeah.
If Homelander can die, Kimiko can die.
I think that's
I can't wait to talk about the episode from this week. Oh my God, DJ.
Agreed. If you want to hear that conversation, check out what we're into on Patreon. Time to go into a little bit of news. Let us talk about the new trailer that dropped as of this recording, dropped earlier this week. We've got Max's, not HBO Max's. No, Max. It's the one to watch. The Penguin, starring Colin Farrell, reprising his role from the Batman. Roxy, you watched this trailer?
I did.
What did you think of The Sopranos but Gotham?
It's an interesting way of phrasing it. It's better than being a Gotham but Sopranos. Although I love Gotham.
Yeah.
I actually thought this trailer looked sick.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know we've seen him in this role before, but it is wildly impressive how much he disappears into this role.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot more actors in this that I didn't know were in this. And I was like, oh, that's cool. That's what trailers are for, to remind you, like, the other people that you're excited to see and why you're excited to see them. We didn't get that much of like the structure of what these episodes actually are going to be week to week, which is totally fine. It was more like a vibe and character piece.
Totally.
Which totally works for me in a trailer. I am curious, like, obviously this isn't going to be a procedural, but did you gather from this is like the overall arc of season 1?
The impression I got, and now that you asked the question, I wonder if that was something relayed in the trailer or just my general sense of what would happen, is it's got to be like Penguin's rise to being the big crime guy, the guy,
right. And like taking down the Falcons to get there.
Yeah, I guess what remains of the Falcons. It's just tricky because he says lines like, "I'm gonna burn down the system from the inside." I'm like, well, what does that mean to you? Being like you're gonna get rid of it, so then you replace it, like, because you're not trying to like stop crime. You're the crime guy. That's your bit. But it definitely gave me Sopranos vibes, which is obviously good generally, but also the negative of that is like it is a bummer that now to do a Sopranos like show, it has to be set in like a comic universe. You can't just do The Sopranos. You can't just do The Sopranos. It has to be like you can't make a noir detective show. It has to be Spider-Man noir now. And it's like, I mean, I'm not against it. I was just,
Yeah, I hear you on that. But this didn't bother me because I think it merits this.
Yeah.
Like we weren't trying to shoehorn in. He is a Sopranos-like character.
Yeah.
It makes sense. I also think that, just to take it back for a second, my initial reaction once I finished this trailer, I even think I said this out loud to myself, was I think this show's going to be good.
Yeah, agreed. Well, I don't know about you. I don't remember where we landed on. I like the Batman quite a bit. I know I've talked to some.
I did too.
Yeah, I know some people it didn't vibe for them, but like I like crime noir, detective, that sort of thing. So you put Batman in that, I'm good to go. So this tone is like, yeah, I mean, I would watch it. You wouldn't need to be the Penguin. I'd probably still watch the show, you know?
Well, I remember feeling after the Batman, which I really enjoyed as well, that I really wanted a Selena Kyle spinoff.
1,000%. 1,000%.
It's not like it has to be either or, but like that was what I was like, oh, this would be so cool. Let's see. And I remember thinking at the time, like, okay, the Penguin, we'll see how that goes. I don't know. And then I saw this trailer and I was like, I feel like I'm going to dig this.
Yeah. Why do you think they didn't announce a Catwoman movie? We're getting a Penguin show, not a Catwoman show. Because I was in the same boat. Like, well, clearly for two reasons. One, Zoe Kravitz, Catwoman, fantastic. Two, Catwoman has had her own comic. There are Catwoman stories. Catwoman's an easier character to generate plot out of.
I really don't know the answer to that. Do you have any speculation on why? Like, could it be about Zoe Kravitz, or is it about like the state of women in Hollywood? I don't know. What do you think?
I have no idea. I couldn't tell you. Other than like maybe the plans they have for the character in like the Batman 2. But it just seems like it's kind of like if you go back and rewatch Iron Man 2, you're like, well, yeah, clearly next movie is Black Widow spinoff. Like that's the easy, it should be and it took a decade later for them to do that. And it's like, but what's happening? And I know it'd be hard for me in the 2020s to imagine the same pushback to having a female-led, especially not just a female-led show, a Catwoman. Catwoman's one of the bigger DC brands. She's connected to Batman. Like that seems like a slam dunk to me. I honestly don't know. I don't know why they didn't do that.
Mike said maybe they don't want to expand the Reeves-verse beyond Gotham, and didn't Catwoman leave town? I mean, this definitely could have been a prequel series if we did Catwoman series.
Or she could have come back. She could have come back.
Or she could have come back. Totally.
Maybe the reasoning was that, although I would argue they should do a Catwoman movie personally. But maybe they didn't want to do a show because it's easier to do a show where the Penguin doesn't interact with Batman than a show with Catwoman where she doesn't interact with Batman. Like, it feels like, which leads me to my next question to you. Do you think we will see Robert Pattinson's Batman in this?
No.
You really don't?
No.
I think I would have agreed with you, but then I remembered the end of Peacemaker, spoilers for that show, where we got Aquaman and Flash in it. And I feel like at least a cameo.
I don't know that we need it. I would honestly rather see Catwoman.
I hear that.
Not that I think that he makes an amazing Batman.
Yeah.
So that wasn't a shot at him. Looking at the people that we know that we will see, I really like Kristen Milioti.
She's great.
I think, she's very good. But one of the vibes that I was getting, like, she is Sophia Falcone. She was giving like Harley vibes to me.
Interesting.
She was giving like kooky vibes to me.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen that version of her before.
Yeah.
I am curious who Sophia Falcone in this universe, like what her personality is.
Yeah. And I'll be interested to see how much of this factors into the Batman 2, which I still have questions about whether we'll actually ever see it. It will ever see the light of day.
I think definitely. You don't think so?
I think with how fickle Warner Brothers has been, and with James Gunn prepping his own Batman movie, I don't see it as outside the realm of possibility that we never see the Batman 2.
Okay. I think it's going to happen, but I hear you.
Yeah.
Wow, just a really cool cast of a lot of TV actors that I've loved for a really long time.
Yeah. We've got a Clancy Brown in there.
Yeah, this girl, Emily Mead, who, for those who were leftover, she also was one of the stars of The Deuce, but for those who were Leftovers fans, she played this character, Amy, who I thought she absolutely knocked it out of the park. It's just really,
she
really
was
good.
Fantastic in The Deuce. I did not see Leftovers, but she is fantastic in The Deuce.
Yeah, and then Michael Zagan, who is Joel Maisel in Marvelous Mrs. Maisel.
Mm-hmm.
I love him, and he's playing Alberto Falcone. We saw him in the trailer.
Yeah.
So I feel like you have Mark Strong, Clancy Brown, like you said. There's just a lot of. I feel like they really, like you said, Sopranos. Like they were really going for quality here. I think that's what's going on here. Does this impact at all your thought process on the new DC regime, how this show is? Or no, because it was greenlit before them?
I think no. I think because of that, because it was greenlit before them. But I don't know. I'd be down. I think there is room for the more serious, gritty, grounded Batman and a more swashbuckling wider DC universe connected Batman. And obviously that's what we're being presented right now. And so I hope that stays. I'll be interested. Truthfully though, seeing this trailer, it's like, I mean, it'd be harder considering the talent that's attached, but it's like, I would watch if they pivoted the Batman into the Batman series, I'd watch that show, man. I'd watch it.
Well, the reason I think that actually there's merit to that, DJ, is that when 8 years ago, 6 years ago, 5 years ago, you and I were talking about all of the superhero shows, it was an extremely crowded space.
Yeah.
Where there was Gotham and Arrow and Supergirl and Flash and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And there was just so many shows.
Yeah.
When you and I were having the conversation last week about The Boys.
Yeah.
And I was like, is this the best live action superhero show on right now? And then it was like, ... Is this the only live action superhero show that's on right now?
Yeah.
So finally, we did give it a little breathing room.
Mm-hmm.
And now I think most people who are like me and you, I want more superhero content on TV that is fire, that's lights out. So I hear you with Batman. I think it could have, and I know that it's not, The Boys is not actually the only. No. We talked about Superman and Lois last week. No. You know, there are other superhero shows.
But it's not what it was. It's easily not what it was.
Yeah, it's not what it was, where we had, like, I'm going to say there was a time in which I feel like there was legitimately 15 superhero shows on at once.
Yeah.
That we were talking about. So there's a lot, not just writing on this show, but I think that there's potential for a big audience for this show.
Mm-hmm.
And there would be a huge potential, of course, for a Batman audience.
Yep.
Of course.
Yeah, and I think also just narratively, my one issue with the Batman is I thought it was too long. I thought it was like about an hour. It was like 3 hours. It's about an hour too long. On a show, that's not a problem. If that's your, you know what I mean? If it's a TV show, and again, I can't stress this enough. I feel like I brought it up before that Benedict Cumberbatch entered the public consciousness through the BBC Sherlock show. Each episode of that was about like each season was 3 episodes that were about like an hour and a half long. That's not an awful format for a superhero show. You know what I mean? Especially if you're talking like a character like Batman who has like a larger pantheon of characters. So it's like, yeah, just do 3-hour episodes of Robert Pattinson's Batman and you'll probably have the biggest show on TV.
I think Penguin might have the potential to be the biggest show on TV, though.
Yeah.
Do you know, and honestly, at this point, I don't know if there's a difference, DJ, but is Penguin an HBO original or is it a Max original? Or
I think pretty definitively Max. At least that's the way they're marketing it. But you are right that it is almost impossible unless something, when I log on to Max, unless something like screams Discovery to me, like, you know, Wife Swap, or I don't know what their shows are, but you know what I mean? You'll see something like Deadliest Catch and you're like, well, that's not an HBO show. Get out of here. You know what I mean? But otherwise, something like this, it's like, is it an HBO show?
Yeah, yes, exactly. Because the only way that I can distinguish is when we turn it on, it has a gray, fuzzy that you hear before Curb Your Enthusiasm or Game of Thrones, you know?
Well,
so I don't know. It feels like this has the potential to be an HBO original.
You know what? Speaking of that gray fuzz, what a perfect segue into our main discussion for today, which is the season 2 premiere of House of the Dragon. It's been what, like 2 years since we last got a House of the Dragon?
Oh, that's crazy. That might be true. I need to just jump in and ask you this from the jump, so I know where your head's at. I just need to know, are you team green or are you team black?
I'm hard pressed to imagine anybody being team green.
Yes, me too.
Right? Because it's not that team black is perfect by a long shot, but like team green kind of actively sucks.
Team green sucks.
Yeah.
Team green are so hypocritical.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad I know that. Now I need to know this from you.
Yeah.
The internet seemed to lose their mind over this premiere.
Oh, okay.
The internet seemed to think this was unbelievable, that the opening sequence and the final moments were like insane cinema. Did you like this episode?
I liked it.
I feel exactly.
It didn't blow my mind. It felt like, hey, we're back and we're slow rolling our way into what we're talking about.
I feel that way too, DJ. And everybody was like, it was action packed nonstop. And I was like, and so do you know what I did? I'm not kidding you.
Yeah.
I was talking about this show on, I know you love when I mention other channels.
Yeah.
Christian Harloff's channel.
Yeah. Friend of the show.
He's friend of the show for sure. But he was like, I do TV picks, as you know, from coming on his show.
Yeah.
At the end, I'll name like 7 shows I'm watching that week or something. And he was like, was your mind blown by House of the Dragon? And that's when I was like, what? And he was like, that ending, how crazy was that? So I didn't say it on air, but I was like, I'm going to go rewatch it. Was it crazy? So I watched this episode twice this week because I really thought that I missed something.
Yeah.
And the first time I watched it, and I was pretty glued to the screen, but I was like, you know, like my mind could have been wandering something. So the second time I like put my phone off, put it across the room, sat there, and it was like just dialed in.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, no, I saw it all.
Yeah.
I had seen it all. And I get to the ending. There is a moment.
You mean this moment?
The wrong kid died.
That moment?
Totally.
Yeah.
But it wasn't to me like, it's not like Red Wedding.
Yeah.
With just Like, it just seemed to me like a little inevitable and a little lackluster, not in a bad way, in a slow roll way.
Yeah, I wouldn't use, I hear what you're saying. I would not use the term lackluster. I thought everything
No,
it
you're right.
did
That's not
was
fair.
strong, but it definitely felt like, hey, we're just setting the table for all the dope shit we're going to do later.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, lackluster is not fair because I was entertained. Are you not entertained?
Yeah.
I was definitely entertained. I was definitely into this episode. If you remember, DJ, I hated the premiere of this show.
Oh, yeah.
I
It was
hated
intense. It was an intense premiere. Yeah.
that episode. I hated,
Yeah.
and I felt like it was just more gratuitous violence towards women that just was like being glorified and didn't need to be shown. And
Yeah.
the decisions that he made, I just thought were like decisions that are currently made today, which make me absolutely fucking sick. And it was way too close to our society, and people shredded me for not liking it.
Yeah.
That's how I felt. I was like,
No.
I don't know that this show is going to be for me. Then turns out the show was really for me.
Yeah.
I really liked season 1. Just the premiere was not for me. And actually, if you go back even further, the premiere of Game of Thrones wasn't for me.
Yeah.
So I was like, let me just give this time. And I loved season 1. But to me, this premiere of season 2, I prefer infinitely to the season 1 premiere.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't like I was like, fuck this premiere. I don't like this. It was just.
So for you, the difference here in this one is the right kid died, in your opinion, for this one, as opposed to the premiere, the series premiere.
I don't know if I would say the right kid died as much as this one didn't piss me off.
Yeah.
As opposed to the premiere. But we're getting back into the politics of things too.
Mm-hmm.
Like some of my favorite scenes, and I know we're going to break it down, but when me not knowing any of their names.
There was I don't know if you saw it. I saw a tweet that was like, you literally can't spoil House of the Dragon for me because I don't know any of the characters' names.
I don't know why. What is our main redheaded girl's name?
Her name is Alicent.
Alicent.
And she's good, unlike a lot of the Targaryens, because I put together a list of the characters, and so it's like, for the Targaryens, you have Rhaenyra, but then there's also Rhaenys, and then there's also Aegon, and then there's also Aemon, and it's like, fucking cool it, man.
Totally. But the scene with her and her dad, that's kind of what, like, I love moments like that where it's complicated.
Yeah.
And we're getting into the politics.
Rhys Ifans is so good in this show. He's so good.
So good. She's calling his ass out.
Yeah.
And this felt like, this is going to sound crazy, DJ, but this felt like a relatable parent to grandparent conversation almost.
Yeah.
Where it was like, don't undermine me in front of my children,
Mm-hmm.
or they will not respect me.
Yeah.
And obviously there's so much at stake here, and it's not as simple as that. But that was like, oh yeah, that's just true in life.
Yes. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So at moments like that with the politics, I really appreciate. And also the way that, okay, what's the king's name?
Aegon, the Sun King?
Yep.
Aegon, the second.
That you think he's going to be straight up Joffrey.
Yes.
But then when he holds court,
he's pretty chill. He's not a good king, but he's a pretty chill there.
And it's like, okay, so I think I've written the show in my head that he's Joffrey. Yeah. And then we go there and I'm like, oh, I don't know. I think don't know.
I think he's going to become a lot more Joffrey because...
Wrong kid died.
You know?
For sure.
Yeah.
A scorned father.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't handle it great, if I'm being honest. This did feel like a kind of a classic... I'm jumping ahead to the end, but this kind of felt like a classic Game of Thrones gambit, where it's one of those like, you dipshits, do you not see how awful this is gonna fall apart? Don't give it to like fucking these putzes, blood and cheese, to go like do your... Why would you send these two dorks to kill somebody that we have clearly established is possibly the most dangerous man in Westeros? Like, what do you think is gonna happen, man? Like this, truthfully, this might have been the best case scenario.
I do love how when there is no social media, internet, like that, you don't know what anybody looks like, where to go, how it is.
Yeah.
It makes these shows so much more fun because there's so much room for error all the time that it's enjoyable to watch people fuck up when they do a good job of the show of letting the audience in on the secret.
Yeah.
Of being like, y'all know, but they don't know. And we're sitting there and we're like, we have the knowledge, we have the power.
Yeah, so it just felt like, and in some ways, I actually think this was a smart decision. As much as the premiere didn't wow me, pinning that, I do want to say that I think one of the reasons why maybe you and I, and this might not be fair, but this is the impression I get the more you and I talk about this stuff, is that I think for a lot of people, they don't watch as much shit as we watch.
Totally. So that's absolutely what it comes down to all the time, DJ. When I hear people say, what was the show that people said was the best show of the year last year? When I was like, oh, so you don't watch a lot of television. That's okay.
Like Loki season 2 or something. You're like,
Loki, that's exactly what it was. That's exactly what it was. So I put out on my Instagram and it got, humble brag, thousands of responses.
Oh.
And like the number one show of the year for people was Loki. And I was like, that's fine.
Yeah.
We're on different playing fields.
Yeah.
I am a professional TV watcher at this point.
Yeah.
I think I hit 70 shows this year so far. If Loki is your favorite show, and I know I was making fun of people earlier for being like objectively, but like if Loki is your favorite show, I don't think you watched more than 20 shows.
Yeah.
Because how?
Yeah, I think you could say, if it's your favorite show, incredible, that's great. If you're like, it is the best show, it's like, well, okay, so what else? I mean, what are you comparing it to? Like, what is it up against?
Yes, so I think it's such a valid point of yours, because when I'm watching House of the Dragon, I think that this is very good.
Yeah.
I do. But it isn't a top 3 show of the year for me.
Well, and
because I watch Shogun.
Yeah, for real. And I think even this isn't even a smaller pool. If you just compare this to other episodes of House of the Dragon, it's very clearly like set up. And what I was going to say earlier is I think that's good, because I don't know about you, but I was like, oh, right, this guy. Like when you got like Schemer dude that's like Alicent's like trying to get, he was into the foot stuff, I think, last season. I was like, oh, I forgot you were even on this show. So I'm glad, I was kind of glad that the show was like, hey, by the way, I know it's been a minute and everybody basically has the same name. So here's who this person is. Here's who this person is. I'm like, thank you. But I'm not walking away going, yeah, oh my God.
Yeah, completely. I mean, exposition gets a bad rap.
Yeah. But
exposition's super necessary in a show that has 40 characters whose name you're all expected to remember. It matters. And I was glad that they did do a little bit of that completely. With every character across the board. And even because, all right, let me ask you, what is this guy's name? Aemond. No, you just told me Aemon was the king.
Aegon. That was my point. Everybody has the same name. This is Aemond. Double checking my homework. Yeah, this is Aemond. This is Aegon.
So Aemond also is clearly changed from season 1 to season 2.
Yeah.
Clearly different vibe.
Yeah.
Aegon is like, Aemon's in my back pocket.
Yeah.
You know, like he is completely loyal to me now. And it seems like after the huge, horrific incidents that happened last year.
Yeah.
He's got a different energy to him.
Yeah.
So I like that not only do we kind of do exposition to recap, but also to say, where are we now? Because this isn't, people change.
Yeah. There's no way, and I shouldn't do this because my whole point, one of the points I made in my Game of Thrones video is that Game of Thrones built itself around subverting fan expectation, which kind of generated backlash in the finale when all people wanted was, no, tell me I'm right. But I feel like we don't get out of this show without Daemon fighting Eye Patch Kid. Like that's got to be the final show. They got the same hair.
Is that which one fighting him?
Daemon, Matt Smith.
Oh, Matt Smith.
Yeah.
Daemon.
Yeah.
I thought you said Aemond, and I was like, isn't that Aemond?
No, see, I'm telling you, it's the same name. No, Daemon, the uncle wife to Rhaenyra. Uncle husband, excuse me, uncle husband.
Yep. Do we get out of this season or this show?
The show, I feel like those two one of those characters ends at the sword of that other character. I just feel like those two. So when Blood and Cheese, when the two bumblefucks were going to go kill Aemon, I'm like, no, Matt Smith has to fight him. That's how these guys end.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's no way that we knew the second that they were hired. It wasn't like those guys were going to successfully. That would have been like,
kill off one of our main guys. Clearly one of our main guys. No, that's not happening. Even on a Game of Thrones show, that's not happening.
But to that point, I was thinking about this during the episode. There is going to be a main character that dies this season.
Yeah.
Because it is a Game of Thrones show. Who is it going to be?
Yeah, I don't know. It might even be somebody we haven't been introduced yet. I am all for thinning the herd a little bit because it is a lot. I'll feel different about this mid-season. Any Game of Thrones premiere, it's like, oh yeah, all these people, all these guys. I'm for thinning the herd. I don't know. I mean, I think that's kind of the trick with Game of Thrones is hopefully you don't know who's gonna eat it.
Can we throw it back for a second to the beginning of the episode?
Please.
What did you make of us opening at the wall and the conversation that happens there and exactly.
Yeah.
What did you make of this?
Dude, this is the stuff that honestly, I kind of wish we got more of it because this is the stuff that gets my fanboy heart going where it's like, ooh, what are the Starks like 100 years ago? Like, what are the other people doing? And I liked that the Starks were Starking it up. It was like very Stark vibes. I think I saw some discourse. I don't know if you saw much of this, Roxy. I guess maybe I've seen different stuff than you, but like the discourse around, and this might have been because of the video I posted, the discourse around this and the discourse around the Acolyte, it's fucking exhausting. It's just exhausting. I think this one, they're like, something the Stark says creates this huge plot hole because he talks about worrying about what's beyond the wall during winter. I'm like, I know they're not fighting the White Walkers for another 100 years, but they're still worried about that shit. Like they're still aware of all the boogans on the other side of the wall. I don't think that creates a plot hole.
It was because that they called them the dead, right?
Yeah, or something. I don't care about that shit, man. I just don't. I just don't give a shit.
I was the only thing.
But I like the Starks. I like seeing them. I want more of that shit.
So that's what was confusing to me. In what way was this opening relevant to the show that we're watching right now?
It pertains to that's where we left the character that we're sending the kids off to create alliances. So it follows up that plot line. It doesn't really connect to the rest of this episode. It does when you asked me at the beginning, are you Team Green or Team Black? The easiest way to signal, hey, in the gray world of Game of Thrones, these guys are more of the good guys because the Starks like them. The Starks like this kid, so he's probably a good kid. You know what I mean? Like that's an easy shorthand for Game of Thrones to do. But you're right in there.
Starks like what kid?
This is the main Targaryen kid. This is the kid on the left is I
get what you're saying.
Is Rhaenyra's son.
Yeah.
So it's he's Team Black.
So you're saying because the Starks like Team Black,
yeah,
then you feel more confident in Team Black.
Yeah, I think it's a shorthand in the parlance of Game of Thrones to be like, they're probably of the two the better ones.
So, okay, so you think that this is just us following up on where we sent him, and that's what we do in Game of Thrones. We kind of break off with each character and where they are. So that's what this was.
I think this was wrapping up a promise set in the finale of the last episode, and I think they're going to factor in more in later episodes. This isn't just a, hey, we're just stopping by the wall, you're never going to see these characters again. I think they're going to matter more as the season goes on.
Okay.
What do you think?
It just feels low stakes to me there because we know that nothing's happening for 100 years there.
Yeah.
So, like, for all of Game of Thrones, when we were there, every time we went to the wall, it was like, what's happening at the wall right now? Like, is winter here? Is winter coming? Where are the walkers? Like, and for this, it's like just another location.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's why I'm asking. It feels very different and not dangerous and not Just low stakes.
I would say the stakes were there for me in that they need the Starks on their side to have numbers against Team Green.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So if they can't convince them to like saddle up, although I guess it's like, hey, we'll send you our old busted ones. It's like, I guess good enough.
Yeah.
But after the end of this episode, and
Wrong kid died.
I think the stakes are gonna start ratcheting it up pretty quickly. I want to ask you, Roxy, lover and love, shipper of ships, what did you think of all this? Alicent and Cole.
Blat.
Blat?
Blat. Listen, I'm not a fan of hypocrisy.
Mm-hmm.
She like destroys another woman's life.
Yeah.
Because of now something she's doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that he's annoying. What's his name?
Cole.
Cole.
Sir,
Cole's
I think
annoying
it's
as hell.
Sir Kristen Cole.
He's like a scorned ex-lover.
Yeah.
And he's annoying the piss out of me.
Yeah.
Like, do you not see what kind of hypocrite you are? And how dare you? A lot of people said that this was so sexy. It was like, I don't know. Of course, he's going down on her. We open there, and it's like, okay. But it was like 2 seconds.
Yeah.
And compared to the rest of the things that we saw in Game of Thrones, like Christian said, this was the sexiest sex scene he's ever seen in a TV show. And I was like, again, DJ, I'm like, you must not watch a lot of television.
Yeah.
Because what are you talking about?
Yeah, Mr. and Mrs. Smith was on this
Yeah,
year.
this isn't the hottest. This isn't the hottest scene I've seen this year. This isn't the hottest sex scene that I've seen in this franchise.
Yeah, very true. Yeah, we'll see. Where do you think we're going this season? Because I have some. This isn't based off of a full book. This story is coming from a segment from like a book that's like the history of the Targaryens. So I'm always kind of wondering, like, are we gonna wrap this story up this season and the next season jump ahead like 50 years or something? Like,
I don't know. I mean, to me, it's very clear that the premise of this entire show is an eye for an eye literally makes the whole world blind.
Yeah.
And that's what we're about to do.
Yeah. Yep.
Tit for tat, back and forth.
Yeah.
You killed my son. You killed my son's son. You killed my son. But we got dragons.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that I'm not sure this season where we go, but more of that.
Yeah. Mike Joyce in the chat says they said 3 to 4 seasons. I'll watch 3 to 4 seasons.
But that wasn't DJ's question. DJ's question was about a time jump.
Well, no, just like, well, that's true. I guess we could do, because that would still be seasons of House of the Dragon. We just might be following different generations.
Which we already did on the show.
Yeah, we already did a big jump. I just think it'd be a tricky gambit. And as Game of Thrones...
No, I don't think we're going to time jump again, Major. I don't think so. I think we're sticking with these characters now that like, please don't make me learn anybody else's name.
Yeah. And I think that's smart too, because as we've learned with Game of Thrones, you can only push your audience so far. You know, you can't get too out of the box, or else you'll get some pretty big pushback. So I think season 2 we wrap up all this story, and then the next season's a whole different gambit would not be smart.
Yeah, I think that I think you're right. I think that there is enough story here to tell that 3 to 4 seasons. I hope they stick to that and they don't try to stretch it. Mike also calls it Of the Civil War, which is exactly what this is.
Yeah.
But what do you think is going to happen when, don't know either of their names, Rhaenyra and Alicent finally see each other again? And is that going to happen this season?
Well, hold on. I might have a question in the Discord. Mike Joyce, the showrunner, said that Alicent and Rhaenyra will have 2 conversations this season. How do you think Alicent will react if she realizes that she misunderstood what Varys said up on his deathbed? I don't think that's going to happen.
No, there's no way.
Yeah.
There's no way, because even though she claims that's what this is all about,
at
this point, it can't be what it's all about, you know?
No, but I think it'll be tough, because I do think there is a level of to this that is like, there's a joke, and we kind of brought it up with when we were talking, Sal and I were talking about X-Men, where it's like, Magneto and Professor X could just, kiss and make up, just make out, get a room. We'd avoid so many problems. I kind of think there's an element of that to this conflict. Like if Alicent and Rhaenyra could just kiss, just go get a room together, we could sort all this out. Oh, no.
I think it's possible because we do have that line that comes from...
Yeah, Aemond. Yeah.
Who's like, if you have compassion for the enemy, then you're an idiot.
Yeah.
When he's talking about his mother.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's Aemond who says that.
You know
what I'm talking about?
Sounds right. Yeah.
You know the scene I'm talking about where he's okay. He's talking about his mom, and he's being asked by the knight.
Yeah.
Jude.
Kristen Cole. Yeah.
Cole.
Yeah.
Cole is asking him, like, be easy on your mom, kind of thing, and he's like, because he's like, they grew up together.
Yeah. I do remember this.
If you have compassion for whatever, you're an idiot. And it is starting to plant the seeds, especially because also Alicent says, like, my boys follow me right now. Once they don't, I'll have no control.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if there is any world in which Alicent flips, because there is still like a speck of humanity in her.
Yeah, and that's what I was kind of getting at, is that there's still part of the reason I feel like this is so heated is because there's still love between the two, Alicent and Rhaenyra. I don't see her. I guess maybe. I
don't see it either, but it could happen.
Yeah, because you're right in that her handle on the situation is incredibly precarious. And part of what the problem here is, and in Game of Thrones 2, was people's desperate attempt to feel like they had control over the situation. And so Alicent's motivations might change the more she realizes she doesn't actually have control over the situation. And once she has less, once her control cedes more. So yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting. It is kind of exciting to go into a show and be like, yeah, I have no clue. I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, no. Can't predict.
Yeah.
Totally.
Another question from Mike Joyce in the Discord. Daemon is a fascinating but despicable character. How is Game of Thrones so good at creating characters we love to hate?
This week when we were talking about The Boys, I've said that my favorite character on The Boys is the Deep.
Yeah.
I just think he's so wild.
Yeah.
And there were comments of people who, and I wrote that on my social this week, that were like, you picked the rapist as your favorite? And it's like, my dudes, it's all relative. Yeah. There's torturers, there's murderers, there's like, and I didn't say the best human.
Yeah, I said my favorite character, fictional person on a show that I enjoy watching.
Because he's boning an octopus.
Yeah.
Why is that relevant to this show? Because I think it's all relative. Yeah. And I think when there's a world where there's a lot of gray area, it's easier to love a person who's evil because we're comparing them to like horrific people also.
Yeah.
And it's just like, who's the most clever, cunning,
fun to watch. The most fun to watch. Yeah. And to your point, when you're talking about characters, like I've been watching Futurama, and it's like Bender's my favorite character because he's funny. He's funny. He's probably arguably one of the funniest parts of the show. I wouldn't want to hang out with him. I wouldn't want to be his friend, but on a TV show, he's an entertaining character. And there's been enough distance. Like when you brought up like Alicent ruining Rhaenyra because of her relationship with Cole and all that stuff, I'm like, oh fuck, I've forgotten that, because there's been enough distance, and it's like I kind of forgot, other than the general creepiness of he's her uncle, which I guess, hey man, I guess we're just moving on from that shit. I actually kind of don't hate Daemon. Like I kind of don't like, especially now, like he's loyal to the character I like, and so that's a shortcut to me. I kind of like this guy.
Yeah, Leonard Kim in the chat said, "Why do I feel like it's going to be Rhaenys when talking about the deaths?" I think that's probably a good prediction.
And Rain. Oh yeah, Rain. Got it. Rhaenys is the other married to the ship's guy. Yeah.
Blonde girl.
Yeah.
Long hair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you'll notice in my notes, Roxy, I just have this person as Queen Lady in our little assets, but her character's name is Queen Helena.
I'm confused on who she is.
Is she? I couldn't remember from the previous season. Is she? She's Aegon's wife.
Yeah, I got that.
Is she also his sister? Is she also his sister? I feel like
that's exactly what I was thinking, DJ. Like, when did we meet her? I know clearly she's the mother of the children.
Yeah, and I remember meeting her, but I don't remember. And I remember her being vaguely psychic. I remember that. Hold on. We're the perfect people.
How did we meet her?
To cover the show. Nobody's going to give us any hate in the comments. No. Sister wife. That's gross.
It is.
That's gross. Yeah, it's a sister wife. Gross. Don't like it.
It's just so difficult for me to understand.
Yeah.
Because people are like, well, it's a different time. And it's like, in my DNA, am repulsed by my brother. I don't know how you would do that. Even if it was societally acceptable today, I could never.
I think I am willing to give the show, because I think even saying it's a different time is a bit generous, because I don't know how common that was in our time. But it's a different universe. It's a fantasy world, right?
You don't think siblings was common for us?
I mean, I know with royalty there was a lot of inbreeding, which was bad. It's bad and caused us a lot of problems. But I don't think it was as. I think, from my understanding, it wasn't as like societally normalized as this show makes it seem. But also, even this show is more like, no, that's a Targaryen thing. It's obviously Jaime and Cersei had a thing, but that wasn't societally acceptable. It was more of a Targaryens are weird. But I think my only issue is that, like, I don't know how to say this nice. General audiences can be kind of dumb. And it's harder for them to be like, this is a fantasy. This isn't something we're supposed to be rooting for. Like audience members not realizing that Homelander's clearly the bad guy of the show. That sort of thing. You know what I mean? This show is not saying incest is okay. It's just saying this is something these characters did. I'm a little worried about general audience's ability to parse that out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do know what you mean. I think that's more of a problem with society than this show, but yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying it's a problem with the show. I'm just saying it is a problem is for people like you and me whose job is to cover media and art. I find it upsetting how hard it is for people to, like, we were talking about, you've been watching on Real Rejects, you've been talking about Twilight. Yeah. And I haven't seen it. I am aware of all, like, it seems like Edward's a real toxic dude, and the movie doesn't engage with that really, it sounds like, which actually it doesn't bother me as long as audience members know this is a fantasy. This isn't not what you're striving for. Just like when I watch John Wick, I'm not walking out of the theater thinking I can be gun god and cotta my way through any gunfight, because I know it's fake. As we've been doing this long enough that I'm worried about general audience's abilities to parse out those finer details.
Well, a couple things on that. Number one, have you seen Challengers?
No. Doesn't seem like my type of thing, but I've heard it's good.
I'm obsessed with this movie. I watched it. I'm obsessed with it. And I watched it for Real Rejects. And a lot of the people were with me, but a lot of the people in the comments were like, this is why you are single, because you love toxic men. And it's like, I didn't say I would date either of these people. Yeah. I just understand the difference between thinking something's hot in a movie and wanting that in real life for myself. Like you're talking about, distinguishing what is appropriate here versus there. But even, I hope he doesn't mind, on my Live at the Roxy show, I believe it was Mike Joyce who said when 9/11 happened, he remembers going to his parents. He was, I think, 9 or 10, and was like, oh, cool. An explosion.
Yeah.
And his parents were like, you got to stop playing as many video games or something along those lines. Yeah. And it is interesting because While at our age, of course, DJ, you and I can parse out like what's toxic, what's not, what's hot, what's not, what's
Yeah.
cool here, what's an interesting character, but in real life, F no.
Yeah.
But with the kids, does it affect them differently? And not just with kids now, but with people who lack critical thinking skills.
Yeah.
When you are watching some of these shows, like, does that give you, because there were people on the Twilight reactions who were saying to me, what's wrong with you? What he's doing is so romantic. It's so, because I had called out, like, it is a little stalkery to watch somebody while they sleep and not tell them.
Mm-hmm.
And people were like, but that's what you don't understand. That's what a man does when he loves you, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, that's super duper not the point of the movie.
Yeah.
And it's worrisome sometimes when you're either a child and you don't have parents who are like, oh no, that's not what that means.
Yeah.
Or you're an adult who can't critically think.
Yeah. And and I think we could do better societally helping people now, especially in the world of social media, where so much of what the reality we process is through screens, being able to parse out that information and engage with it critically, I think is important. Anyway, I feel like we've gone off the rails, but I like the show. I'm excited. This episode didn't blow my mind, but I'm excited where the season's going.
You like the show, but it's not making you want to bone and marry your sister.
Not at all. No. And again, I don't think that's what the show's trying to say. It never makes it seem like a good, like, it never seems good. It never seems, even in Game of Thrones, it's never like, oh, this is a good thing. This is something we should be rooting for. Before we wrapped up, I did want to mention that they have released the first image of the next Game of Thrones spinoff called A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. Here's the synopsis, the official show description. A century before the events of Game of Thrones, two unlikely heroes wandered Westeros. A young, naive, but courageous knight, Sir Duncan the Tall, and his diminutive squire, Egg. Set in an age when the Targaryen line still holds the Iron Throne, and the memory of the last dragon has not yet passed from living memory. Great destinies, powerful foes, and dangerous exploits will await these improbable, incomparable friends. And I think this is based off George R. R. Martin's Duncan Egg series. And now that said a century before. So now I need to double check. When does House of the Dragon take place?
Yeah. Way earlier than that then.
I guess. Timeline.
And if that's the case, does House of the Dragon end with there being no more dragons?
Spoilers! I don't know. Hold on. Well, somebody played a clip. My wife shared with me a clip from Game of Thrones that seems to spoil the ending of the show. And I was like, maybe. But as I've mentioned before, everybody has the same name. So this could just be a different part of, like, even Aegon's Aegon the Second. So, like, who knows? It could have been Rhaenyra the Third or whatever. Okay.
I want to know what the clip said.
Timeline Game of Thrones. Approximately 172 years prior to the birth of Daenerys. So basically almost 200 years. No, that's being generous. Probably about like closer to like 180, close to 200 years prior to the start of Game of Thrones. So this is, so I guess...
no, because the birth of Daenerys.
But the show doesn't begin with the birth of Daenerys. It begins like 18 years later.
Right. So it would be the opposite direction. It's like 150 years before. It wouldn't be more years.
Yeah. Because if it's 172 years before the birth of Daenerys, and Game of Thrones takes place 18 years after that.
I hear what you're saying.
It's closer to 200.
Yeah.
My math isn't that good. I'm not a good math. I don't have a good math brain. But yeah. So I guess this is almost, give or take, like 80 to 100 years after House of the Dragon, which you bring up a good point, will be tricky. I guess I don't necessarily spend a lot of time talking about what happened 100 years ago. It doesn't come up in conversation all the time. Well, 100 years ago, this character died.
We have newspapers and stuff.
Yeah.
Like they didn't, so.
Yeah. But I will say, it sounds like a good premise. It in some ways, it kind of sounds like...
I want to see the picture.
I didn't forget to pull it. Roxy, I'll put it up.
What? That's how you started. You said there's a new picture that's been released.
I know, and I forgot to pull it. And I'll pull it. I'll put it in the actual episode that goes up.
You don't care about my moist little eyeballs.
I'm sorry. But yeah, what's interesting about that is it kind of sounds like an inverse of this show, where this show's like all the political intrigue, and this one's like, hey, but the little guy going around, adventuring, stuff like that. So.
And like 2 characters.
Yeah, I know.
2 main characters.
Not a jillion.
I like that.
Yeah.
Let me follow these 2.
It also sounds fun because it sounds like almost a more traditional, it'll be Game of Thrones, so it won't be, but it sounds like a more traditional, like, hey, a knight in a square going on adventures. Like, oh, that's quaint. That's nice. Mm-hmm. I'm sure it'll all be fun. And no.
Do you think it's going to be almost like a procedural?
Dude, I wish, man. I really wish The Witcher had leaned into my favorite part of those games, which is you show up at a town. There's a monster attacking the town. How are you going to stop that monster? Instead, they leaned more into the high fantasy stuff. It was like, no, every other Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones do that shit. Focus on this thing. Focus on this thing that you're good at. So it's like, if it is more like, hey, dunk an egg, show up in a town. What are we going to do in this town? It's like, I would like that.
Yeah.
Do I think it will be? Probably not.
Yeah.
Probably not. All right. Those are our thoughts on House of the Dragons Season 2 premiere. Let us know what you think in the comments down below. Roxy, where can the kids find what you're working on?
Everywhere at Roxy Stryer.
You can find me at DJ Talks Trash. You can follow this show everywhere that matters at Only Stupid Answers, but on Twitter/X.
Yank out the vowels from stupid.
And we will see you all next time.